talk a bit about.
Sorry.
All right, so we're going to do a bit of a recap about last year. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that's upcoming for this year and provide that open platform for everybody to share some of their experience as well. What we'll do just to kind of manage some of the conversation, we'll ask you guys to unmute, and just if you can put up your hand, then what we'll be able to do is sort of organize that conversation with it. But Nicola, if we want to start off with sharing the screen, that would be great.
Yep. Okay.
All right, so it was yet another exciting year for us for Open Farm Days. This was year number 10. I'm not sure where the years are all going, but they seem to be going quite quickly. We've put together a snapshot of some of the numbers, and I'm happy to share this with you guys as a presentation as well later. Some of the numbers, of course, are sort of extrapolated from what was submitted, so we'll go through a little bit of it. We started off this year with 123 registered farms. As I'm sure all of you are aware, sometimes there's family emergencies, a few things that come up. So as we enter the final days up until Open Farm Days, we do have a few people that drop. So our participation was somewhere around 116, 17 in there somewhere. So really some great numbers. Obviously with COVID, we dropped back to the mid 70s, climbed back up. So now to be back at 120 is wonderful. Our goal for this year is to be around 150 and to continue that growth. The farms that required AHS permits, this means farms that had food on their farms this year, was up to 70. So over half of the farms had some sort of meaningful food experience on their farms. So we're seeing a lot of growth in that category. We had 6 markets and we had 23 different locations that were licensed to either be selling or serving local craft beverage. So again, some growth in that areas. From our survey responses that went out to all the farms, we had 58 of those returned to us. So those are some of the concrete numbers that we can kind of pull. We know some of your numbers are a little bit of guesswork or estimations, but it also gives us a kind of a bit of an indication from your side how things went. So for our numbers, we had is interesting. People always ask us, particularly first year farms, how many people can I expect on my farm? Of course, we really don't know. But what we do know is the closer you are to major centers, the higher the attendance that you'll have. We also know that when there's clusters, if there's solid little groups of farms together, we're going to have some better numbers as well. So there's lots of different things there's some things we can do to impact your numbers and some we can't. We can't move the major cities, but we can move the clusters, which is an interesting opportunity. So at the low end, we had 24 visit one of our farms, and at the high end, we're at about 2,500. So it's a pretty wide range there of numbers. And yeah, and everywhere falls somewhere in between. The reported number of visitors for this year was just shy of 19,000. And when we take the full number of farms that are participating, that should put us around 40,000 visitation. So those are some pretty healthy numbers. And the average visit per farm was 327 people. We split it Saturday and Sunday. It's interesting to take a look at the different numbers. We have considerably less farms on the Sunday, which also impacts the numbers. But we had about 61% of our people were out on the Saturday and then 39% on the Sunday. And our revenues range everywhere, actually from negative. Some people obviously have hosting costs and they don't sell anything and don't charge anything. So we do have some with a negative or a zero revenue line upwards to 10,000. And we have a number of farms that sit up in that 10,000 range as well, which is kind of exciting to see that as an opportunity for them. All right. So our surveys told us a little bit of information, and this is something we like to share back with you. And it also gives us a couple of things to chat about, and we want to pick your brain on a couple of things as well. But what was popular on your farm? Eggs and honey seems to be the top of many of the lists, usually an accessible price point and something that often at farms there's readily available. Pasture tours were very, very high, wagon rides, that type of thing. Markets, kittens and puppies generally steal the show on a regular basis. bison burgers, barbecue, food in general, soil knowledge, people interested in regenerative farming, people interested in worms, all sorts of things like that, that bubbled up pretty high this year. Ducks and chickens, people just want to see, feed, and touch animals, just a unique thing. Beer tastings, wine tastings, sensory experiences, digging vegetables and new picks, and scavenger hunts. So those were some of the things that were highlights of what you told us was successful on your farm for this year. In terms of what we heard back from you on open farm days and event execution, resources and training were helpful. Many of you said you'd like to start planning earlier, and we felt that last year with the year-round training, which is the first year that we did that, it got a number of particularly New Year farms off to a good start, and a lot of time to explore some of the things that they felt they didn't have time to do when our training started in the spring. So we saw a lot more people get permanent liquor licenses, different kinds of AHS training, things like that, that take maybe a bit longer lead time. So we had some really nice results out of that. So happy with that. You asked for earlier access to printed materials, postcards, and radio. I will say some of our materials were delayed this year, and we had Service came on board as one of our sponsors, which was wonderful. It did put a delay into some of the printed materials. So we know that that got into your hands far later than was ever intended. So our goal is to have all of our printed materials out by the beginning of July for this year. So yeah, you've been heard, and we agree as well. So I put the next point down because I think it's important for some people to hear both sides. So we did have radio as well and our print material. And then we did have comments back saying, don't waste your money on print material, don't waste your money on radio, don't spend your time on Instagram, don't spend your time here. What's interesting is with the people that we're pulling across both urban and rural Alberta, we've got a wide mix of people, and not everybody is on Instagram. Not everybody's on Facebook. Not everybody's looking at the websites. Not everyone's listening to the radio. So there may be many tactics that we do at Open Farm Days that might not directly impact your farm. You might look at a few things and say, yeah, that's not something that's important to me, but it probably is important to other people. So we try and be as diverse as possible with some aspects of this so that we can reach as many people as possible, understanding that some are at cross purposes. So because we are for this program targeting such a wide range of younger and older people, immigrants and Canadians and different things, it requires a different set of tactics to get all of those people there. So not all of them are relevant for everyone. But I do want people to know that, there's those that are saying, postcards don't work. There's also equally as many saying, oh my gosh, I want more and I want them earlier. So we're trying to balance some of those different opinions. And when you consider 123 farms, there's going to be at least a couple of thoughts and ideas at the table there. There was one idea that came up, which I really liked and I put down, which is an idea bank of activities. So we had a lot of people saying, I've entered into this and I'm looking for more and more ideas. We do have some checklists and we do have some things, but that is a brainstorming session on different things that have been done in agritourism, I think, and creating a more robust and perhaps creative list of some thoughts and ideas. Another thing that came up was portable toilet concerns, equally split again. So we had about half the people very sort of appreciative to the credits in that for that. But we also have some that have challenges in getting porta potties. The closest place to get them from is a long ways away and the costs are quite high. I think there's a few farms too, and we're going to flag this in some of our materials that might have had more than was necessary for the size of their farm and for the number of people. So we go through that quite a bit in some of the AHS training, but not necessarily does everybody take that, because if they're not doing food, they might sort of bypass some of that information. But I think what's really important to know is the number of people that we have. If we know on average we've got 327 over the course of the weekend, we're somewhere around, what is that, 160 a day, which puts us under that small number one, having one facility for the threshold for it. So we can make a really good case that most of our farms just need one. And some people were getting multiples, which was driving their costs up, and then found that they weren't being used. So that's something that we will be addressing just to make sure everybody understands what's required. I think a few people went over and above and had a price tag that went with it. Some people missed the Open Farm Days incubator box that we've done. We've run those for a couple of years. This year we did a different kind of style of program where you couldn't purchase that from us. This was more of interest to people that don't typically sell a lot of things on their farm, and we're looking for a kind of a one-stop. It was kind of fun and it worked. So that was something else that we heard. And back to that concept of interested in finding other ways to generate income. And the one thing I'd like to flag about income is in some of the feedback, there's a number of people that had suggested that they would like to be able to charge for things on the farm. And again, that's just almost maybe a misunderstanding of some things. What we require for Open Farm Days, of course, is that there be a free educational component and that people can enter the farm at no cost. We absolutely encourage saleable items and saleable experiences, whether it be wagon rides or all sorts of things. We absolutely want this to be a profitable weekend for everybody. And we know that our consumers are coming out there. They want that free educational component, but they've also come with coolers and they've come with money, and they're interested in spending it on those ag experiences. So we do want to make sure that people are understanding that there are lots of things that they can be selling for to make this profitable for themselves. And lastly, booking systems, how to make it more useful and accurate. Again, we find a wide range of feelings about what worked and what didn't work for it. A lot of really positive ideas because it gave people a good idea, and perhaps in some cases, how many people might be coming and allowed them to control that. Other people feeling overwhelmed with a whole pile of people showed up that they weren't prepared for because the registration system did not indicate those kinds of numbers. So we will be having sessions on each of some of these major topics so that we can dig a little bit deeper into them and get you some more valuable information for it. Okay, Nicola. All right, so training, I touched on this, I won't spend too much time on it, but last year we started back around this time of the year, and we ran through a course of sort of 10 different programs through the year. And then we did a second condensed program on cluster development. So all of our resources, the videos and everything that we ran last year are available on our host's website so that you have access to all of this information if anyone wants to go and look at it. We also, with the exception of the cluster development, we were piloting that last year. So this year we'll be rolling it out a little bit differently. If you are in a region, one of the things that we strongly recommend is to find neighboring farms and build a network. There might be farms that you think would be a great addition to Open Farm Days, and we would encourage you to reach out to them and talk to them. It's interesting. Some people look at it as competition, but we know when there's a strong cluster of farms together, people will make a day or a weekend out of this, and they'll see that there's 4 or 5 farms. So they'll head that way. It'll allow them to fill their day. So the more strong clusters of farms working together that we can build, the stronger that weekend gets. And when we take a look at our numbers, somewhere around 40,000, when we take a look at the population of Alberta, there's a whole lot more people we can be reaching. So this is really just the start as we continue to grow the program and the awareness for it. All right, this is an eye chart, my apologies, but we have put up our training program for this year, and all of these are available through the Open Farm Days website, so you can register on any of these. The programs that we have, some of them are brand new to us, and it is based on some of the feedback that we had from you. So for the first time, we're going to be talking about ag insurance. We had a lot of people asking about insurance for agritourism, what it looks like, and how it compares to commercial farm insurance. So we have actually the end of this month, we've got Perry Kramer from NFP. So that is where we get our farm insurance from right now, our blanket insurance for open farm days. So he's going to talk more widely on insurance that falls outside of open farm days, and also add on pieces if there's something that's not covered, or if you've got general questions about ag insurance. So that one's new. We also have Service, who is one of our partners. They're going to be talking about small business loans for ag tourism. We understand sometimes people are financing small side hustles, and it might be the kids or the next generation that are looking to do something on the farm that is at arm's length connected to the regular farm business. So an opportunity to kind of talk about some of those things, and to have some people learn about business plans and things like that. And then a whole host of other stuff that we're going to be doing. Nicola will be telling us about emerging trends in social media. We're going to learn a little bit about TikTok and some of those fun and upcoming things, developing your digital brand. And then always popular, we will have one course with AHS and one on AGLC to help us with permitting as we get closer. If there are things that anyone would like to see, what I'd ask you to do is send either a note to Nicola, Suzanne, or myself, and we are happy to go and find the experts and bring them to you in a really easy living room kind of way, and walk through what those opportunities are. We've had some really great feedback, particularly around things like AGLC, where people find them a little bit challenging, and some of the regulatory stuff a little bit overwhelming at times. And I will say that Tony Hazelwood has just been such an amazing resource for us for Open Farm Days. And the number of emails and phone calls I get back after she's helped somebody get everything done in such an easy way is just wonderful. So our goal really is to make this as simple as possible, and to cut through, some of the challenges. So that's our goal with the training. So if there's something that you need help with for training that we can find an expert to help you on, let us know, and we'll go dig them up. And I think this brings us to a couple of things that we wanted to share, observations that we saw this year, and then we're just going to open it up. There's a new farm. This was a first-year farm this year, Highfield, just in Calgary. Thought it was really interesting what they had done for their program this year. So it is a greenhouse that's right in the city. Nicola, you can go to the next slide. And they put together a really robust plan for a first year. So they have a greenhouse, they have a compost program that they run, and they have a compost club that meets every Tuesday. And so the compost club was in charge of explaining how they do their composting. They had ABC Bees, which has their hives on the property for the greenhouse and for the flower gardens, which was lovely. So they were working with that company. And then they had tables and chairs set up for coloring and crafts and food. And then they had a mini market table. And for a first-year farm, they just had so many different elements, but it was great to see that they completely offloaded certain projects. So the composting team ran that, so they didn't have to. They had a gardener that ran the garden walk, and then they had the girls wearing the cute little flower crowns. They had to make your own crafts out of flowers and stuff. It was really quite lovely, and kids were having a great time, and so were the adults. But there was just a lot going on. But it was clearly kind of partnerships that really made that one work, which I thought was lovely for a first-year farm. Another one, this one is just outside of Airdrie, and it was a mushroom farm. Again, it was their first year, and we know when you're close to the major cities, you're going to get a lot of people, and they did. But they worked with a local bakery, and they had free baked goods. They had free coffee, and they were selling their baked goods. They were selling their mushrooms, which they typically don't sell direct out of the farm there. But and then they had these great tours, and the tours they had originally scheduled for on the hour, but then they had to do a little bit more of them because they had such a big uptake in interest that they started running them more frequently. But again, it was just really, really well received. And, for a first year event, I think they did just a marvelous job. And next. And this one is a second year one. This is Farm 253. What I liked about their partnership is they actually invited the Ag for Life bus, which is an educational one. And they parked the bus there for the weekend. They had just hundreds and hundreds of people that came through, and they had their tours. They had sloppy joes using their beef. They had a mini market, so they were selling lots of different things. And they also had a beer garden. So they sort of really ramped it up from last year. But again, they found a couple of other things that were extra partnerships. So they brought other people to their farm to do it. But it's just fun for us to see the progression when people come in year one, and then really see what the opportunities for them are as they grow. So at this point, really what I would love to do is talk a little bit about who our team is. I think everybody has met, of course, Nicola, who's right next to me somewhere. Suzanne Kelly, who's now been with us for a full year, which is wonderful. And she's not here today, unfortunately. And of course, Tim. But we're a pretty small, lean and mean team, but we try and get a lot done. And we'd love to kind of just open up the floor to find out how your years went, what worked for you, what didn't work for you, what you would like to see from us. So I'll ask everybody to unmute. And I'm going to start putting people on the spot. No, I'm not. I'm joking.
Do it.
So who had a good year this year? Lorraine, we can see you now.
We had a good year. Yeah, I would say so.
Tell us about your year. What happened that was special with you guys this year?
So we do the Rural Roots Farmer Showcase, and we have a market during the daytime with vendors, so with the focus on food. And then in the evening, we put on a really lovely dinner. And we added a concert 2 years ago, and that has been popular as well. Lindsay Porter was our chef, and I would say there's the one thing where we feel like we're making some progress, is that we've had some high-end chefs come, and they're starting to like being there. Doreen Pry was our chef last year, and she came back and helped Lindsay because she just wanted to be there. So that's the kind of thing we really want to continue that momentum. And we, with a grant from CFEP, we were able to improve the food prep station that we have in our big open fronted building where the food is prepared. So I'm assuming that helps encourage chefs. I would say the downside though is we did not sell all of our tickets for dinner, and we just kind of assumed that was a given that would happen, and it didn't, and we're not sure why that didn't happen. And so financially that was a bit of a problem for us. So we need to figure that out. But at the market, yeah, there's lots going on. Again, we're kind of stuck at the same number of vendors, and we'd like to increase that and maybe find some different faces. People are wanting to see something new every time, and so that's always keeping us going, looking for new faces for the visitors to see.
Right. How many vendors did you have this year?
So we had about 16 vendors, and that includes about 3 that were more demonstrations or just kind of information booths. We've had the 4-H the last 2 years, and I must say they're fabulous because they come with lots of people, and they've got lots going on, and the youth that are there are very animated. So I think that catches a lot of people's attention, and they sell things, so I believe it's good for them. Mm-hmm. It's just a nice way to let people know about 4-H and the possibilities for people to join 4-H. So we really enjoy having them there.
Okay. For your dinner tickets, how many were left unsold against your target numbers?
This year? Well, this year we only sold 65, and 100 is what we have to sell. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
And it was beautiful weather. I mean, that is the other thing. We know that every year that's often the make or break it. If it's cold and miserable, then it won't be such a glorious day, but it has been, and we're really grateful for that. We also partnered with 2 greenhouses, and they provided beautiful flower baskets, big containers of color that they bring out to us a couple of weeks ahead of time. And so we're in a large location, we're in a historic garden, so It really adds a lot of color throughout the whole area, and it would be well beyond our ability to do that, and the greenhouses seem to enjoy providing it. I think there's a little competition between the 2 greenhouses, so That's always kind of nice.
That sounds like a good kind of competition. I like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, so you could use some more help maybe from us in promoting your specific event and and sometimes too for us is that like we know consumers are looking for things as well. And when there's dining events and ticketed events, that's something that we're looking at how to do that on our website and to get more kind of awareness around ticketed versus things that are generally open. So yeah, maybe again, that sort of, if this is a go again for next year, maybe getting those tickets on sale early is not a bad idea. And we're moving, like our platform is moving to 365 days a year. So we're starting to promote, winter stuff right now and Christmas markets and all of those sorts of things. And, I think, when you've got an opportunity to put tickets on sale early for stuff like that, could it even be in advance, like a Christmas thing or, there's, we know when our days are, so we know what's going. And, typically, we always say for open farm days, it's rain or shine, like it's happening. So, so maybe timing is key, but we can talk a little bit about some promotional stuff as well later.
Yeah. And if I can just interject, like a couple of things that help with tickets, and I think we're kind of repeating myself ad nauseum, but like Tana says, like having that information ahead of time, but then having the full information. So where they can buy tickets, making it easy to purchase tickets. So whether that's through Eventbrite or, but making it difficult to buy tickets is challenging, especially for people that like maybe don't know you, they're coming in from the city or they're coming in from another part of the province. So having it easy to purchase tickets is important. And then having every little bit of information on there. If they don't know you, having all that information builds trust. So having all that information maybe in early July would be beneficial to help have that on our website and then help build that through would be really good. I mean, there are things that we can do, but with 123 farms, sometimes it's hard for us to highlight every single one of them. So making sure that your profiles are robust, making sure that information on there, if people, because we do have a ton, we had another kind of historic year for Open Farm Days with the amount of people that was going to our website. So people are looking at your profiles. They are clicking on all the links. So making sure that all the information that is on our website, because people are going to the Open Farm Days website. I think we had over 1 million visitors the weekend of Open Farm Days. And they weren't unique, but wasn't 1 million unique, but we had 1 million clicks through the website on the weekend. So making sure that you have that information that is robust and correct is vital. And that's just my tip. But having that information early as well, it's good. People can kind of plan in advance, or even, if they're planning their vacations, they can plan their staycations or their trips to Alberta. By purchasing experiences is also really big.
All right, who else wants to tell us about their Open Farm Days this year? I see you, you have to unmute yourself though.
Oh, here, I'll see if I can do it, Janina. Janina, you want me to and I can ask you to unmute? You just can't mute yourself? Unmute?
There we go. Can you hear me? Yeah. It kept saying I couldn't do it. And I was like, I don't know. So John's hiding over here. There we go.
Hello.
So hi, and thank you for all your help last year. It was our first year and it was just like, it was awesome because the weekly updates, the training sessions, the media, and what we received from the county as well as CBC was tremendous. I think it was a great job, and the printed sources were popular. Like, we didn't have anything left at the end of the day. Or at the end of the weekend. So no, I understand the environmental concerns there, but it's like what you're saying. Instagram which we didn't do a lot of, but good start, like borrow today. The radios, all of those were really important. And then also what was really important was the feedback from the media coverage we got. We had, so we're in central Alberta, just between Red Deer and Rocky Mountain House. And I don't remember if we got anything much out of Red Deer, but we got huge feedback from the local paper, the Western Star, not once, but twice, as well as the Mountaineer at Rocky Mountain House, as well as later on, another sort of a perk from a group that I belong to out of Edmonton. So, I mean, that makes it great because people are looking forward, hey, what's out there? We want to see it again, you know? We had a lot of feedback in terms, because we're Hamingja, the Heritage Farm and Nature Preserve. So people were really interested in some of the rewilding, which we haven't done so much of, but we're just securing space that is nature space. And when they came in and just looked out over the valley, there was really the prompting to us to, can we come back? Can we have a staycation? What can we do? And we haven't heard from people yet, but it certainly planted the idea in our minds that that's feasible here. We just have to figure out a way to finance the loops and hoops that we have to go through to do that. But it's interesting. It was a really great day for tours. I used to work for Alberta Parks as a visitor services officer. And this was super for all of us. Like John took them through what had been an aquaculture barn. It's not in progress at the moment, but people were really interested with that. And the bees, they interacted with the fish. Feeding peas to the ducks was a huge highlight. And just, we had figured our tours would be maybe half an hour or so, and they wound up usually being about an hour and a quarter. Like, people were there because they had specific interests and lots of questions, and it was so much fun. We had a harpist come down from Edmonton, so we took cues from farms that we visited last year, like Hoban, who had music happening, and some of the other people had vendors and little kiosks and so on. So we didn't have a lot of that for this year, but we had a master weaver come down from Edmonton, which was great because we're just learning how to use the textiles from our sheep. And it's been a challenge, but so anyway, she was there and the harpist was there. And one of the things that was really strange was a request for an interview from CBC, which was a highlight. And I asked them, so why, with all of these different farms that you're interviewing, why did you choose us? Because we're 6.5 acres, and like, what did you know, why? And they said, well, because you've got this Viking theme going on. And so we have a stone circle and dragon figures up on the roof and things like that. And they said, we just find that Viking thing is really, can you tell us more about that? And it's like, okay. Because we do Viking reenactment as well. And so there's a very, I mean, there's a number of cultures depicted here through our music and different animals and things. But then because Vikings are a big deal these days, that was a draw, you know, for some people. So it was a really neat combination. We tried the food. We were terrified, like overbuying, underbuying. John is still eating pie.
No, I have one left.
He's still eating pie from back in August.
But I like pie.
That's his excuse. But this year we're going to go down, this next year we're going to go down to one, and then we're going to, I think I mentioned to Annis, we'll do like lamb stew and bannock, which is a Scottish as well as Indigenous, you know, bread. So there's lots of really great things going on. Yeah, it was a really great experience. We got some good pictures, we got some good feedback, definitely ideas for next year. This is great having this now because I'd forgotten a bunch of stuff I was going to do this year that ran out of time, and now I've got it written down. It's like, don't forget to do this and do that and do this. So anyway,
Should talk about
tell them about what?
the forest.
Oh, it'll come up. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, there's been lots of developments and things that'll be new and different for this year, and yeah, stay tuned.
Wonderful. I think, and that's why we like to kind of start this off early, because a lot of times when it gets condensed into a short period of time, it's hard to do it. Whereas if we start to think about it now, it gives us enough time to make some changes and deal with some of the regulatory stuff if that's what it is, or to plan out what you're doing. So thank you so much for sharing.
And I think it's really neat. Thank you. I think it's really neat too that some of the people who volunteered, and thankfully we had volunteers, like we didn't think we were going to, but we did. And like one of our neighbors is going to take a food safe course this year, as am I, because we want to be fully in charge of being able to offer the things we want to offer and make sure that our volunteer staff are also health conscious. We'll have a little bit of a, we didn't know who was going to actually show up. So now this time we know more about muster areas and those kinds of things, and about stats and QR codes and, a sign-in book at the front that we didn't do this year that would have just made that better for all of us in terms of reporting, because those are important things to have. And what was I going to say? Oh, and so people are interested in looking actually at ways they can help better this next year. And so what was just between John and myself and Beulah, who own our sheep and so on, we've got neighbors who actually ask, so are you okay for the one day? And they're saying, well, can we do a food safe, or we should be doing this next year? And I mean, I think that's great because it's bringing community together.
Yes.
And again, thank you.
Yeah, we love it when we start to see people working with their neighbors, inviting different organizations, whether it's ag societies or communities or whatever it is. We've seen church groups run the barbecue. We've seen all sorts of different things depending on where it's from. But by bringing people together, it just, it makes it a lot of fun, and the volunteers enjoy it more, and it just becomes a real community celebration. So we don't want to be prescriptive of here's how it should go, but we've seen so many amazing things that it's fun to watch people carve out their own paths, but maybe with a nugget of inspiration of what could be. So thank you.
And broadening into the bigger community as well, because of course at different open farm days functions, we were able to go out to, welcome and meet and greet events. But then also, like for us, the Rocky Ag Society contacted and they were doing tours, and so we became a part of that and just got to meet people there that we hadn't kind of met. So that was a really good event.
Wonderful.
All right.
Thank you. All right, Prairie Gardens, we see you there. Come on.
Go on, Tam. This was Tam's. Tam has on Prairie Gardens have been with us from the first year. Oh, why is it
Okay, can you hear us now?
Oh, there we go.
Hi, sorry, our camera doesn't seem to be working for the video, but yeah, we have been with Open Farm Days ever since its first run, and it has been up and down over the years. This last season was a very, very well attended year. We had a cluster develop in Sturgeon County that included us, Lakeside Dairy, and 2BK Farms. And I think all farms were very busy. We were a little overwhelmed by the number of people who came out, and we did have our own online booking program with tickets that we also sell tickets with. And we just had so many people come that did not have tickets. So that was a surprise for us, and surprises aren't good sometimes. We have two farms. So we offered at one farm, petting farm and free entrance to mazes, and some U-Pick garden tours, train rides, which people paid for, and food, which people paid for. We found this year, I think people were pretty budget conscious, and so the low end items and the food at least were the big sellers, and the high end items did not sell as well. We at the second farm had a free corn maze, and then we gave wagon tours around the U-Pick fields, and people could dig potatoes and learn all about harvesting garlic this year. So that was quite well attended, and people were really excited about, especially the garlic. People were really keen to learn more about garlic, and it just happens to be perfectly timed to coincide with garlic harvest in the middle of August. We did have a challenge this year, and some of you know about it. After having had open farm days, we did have some people it was a beautiful day and they decided to walk between their two farms, which generated quite a bit of negative feedback to us from Sturgeon County. And after deliberations, they actually put a stop work order on us. And we had to halt all operations because they claimed we had too many people out on the farm that day. And we estimated that we had about 300 people at any given time between the two sites. And I think that's certainly not high numbers for what we're used to at our farm in any case. And so what we need help with is regulatory going forward. Sturgeon County is working on developing an agritourism or a diversified agriculture amendment to the land use. And the goal is to allow agritourism. So they essentially stopped work on every agritourism offering that we had. We could no longer offer corn maze, U-pick, greenhouse,
market gardens, farm market,
farm to table food, anything.
corporate.
And they decided in their
Field trip.
wisdom, that we could only have 100 people per day to the farm after open farm days, which is not viable for us on a financial basis. Doesn't even get us to cover our cost of wages for the day. So definitely a challenge. This new regulatory piece that they're introducing actually is going to third reading tomorrow at the county council level. And what they are looking to do with it is regulate agritourism, and especially traffic and the number of people that can come to a farm. So they actually had us hire an engineer to do a traffic study. And he then said with our rural township road that we would only be allowed 25 cars per day to visit us at our corn maze site. And I think it was 50 cars a day at the Prairie Garden site, which is way below what we need to be financially viable to do that. What they also did was ask us for a traffic accommodation study, and they really got into I guess the red tape of everything, and really made that process extremely difficult for us to navigate through. So I guess what we felt they could do such a better job with was understanding the value of agritourism and rural tourism, for that matter, in the county. We're kind of at the anchor attraction, and in cluster development, it would have been such a great idea for them to take this as a learning and go, you know, obviously, if you have too many people coming out, you should spread it around and have, you know, people be able to travel between all of the various farms in the cluster if that's their big concern. It would be also really great if they were on board with it from the perspective of understanding that it's a provincially mandated program. And, you know, we actually hardly did any marketing ourselves. So we feel your marketing was brilliant this year. And I think we just posted on our Facebook page 3 days before the event that we were participating. So we kept it on the down low and we're pretty quiet about it. And still we were a bit overwhelmed. I guess from an open farm days perspective, I feel like we cannot control attendance when it's free because people will not go online and will not observe timed entry. They just show up. And I think we need to be able to have an admissions fee or some sort of fee that controls attendance, or if it's a parking fee or if it's an attendance fee, and then they can still have a free experience within that, but we can't control it if it's free, and we don't know how we can participate next year if it's free, because we'll be in the same situation again. We do think that COVID, pent-up demand from COVID was partly responsible for the just overwhelming response this year, but also the free, because people are really concerned about their budgets and spending money. So look forward to any advice you might have. We feel what could be a good outcome from this is our learning with dealing with a county that's not supportive. But also, I think it would be really valuable for us as an industry in agritourism to have a coalition across Alberta, because we are stronger together. And I know from working with municipalities that once one municipality adopts some bylaw and some regulatory pieces, that they then share it with every other municipality across the province, and each municipality just literally copies and pastes from one set of bylaws into another set. And so if it's happening to us here in Sturgeon County, it's going to be widespread across the province in just a little bit of time. And I think that we better be prepared, because from a regulatory perspective, it's not supportive of what they're doing with agritourism in the province.
Yeah,
Their coalition would be great, and that might take the form of working with a sub-standing committee with the Alberta Farm Fresh Producers Association, for example, that already has that structure, or even the greenhouse growers, or some joint committee between them, because we need a voice. And in the province, agriculture has provincial oversight, but when it comes down to agritourism, it does not have any provincial oversight. And that means each and every municipality can just dream up and do whatever they want. And we just have to deal with it on the local level. And I think we need a bigger voice provincially to get agritourism included as part of agriculture that has provincial oversight.
yeah. I think there is something there, and I know you're not the only area that has had some challenges, and with the different regulations for the municipalities, kind of all over the place. We've got some that are so pro and helpful, and then we've got some that have an issue with something about something, and it makes it really, really challenging. But I think you're right. I think everybody's stronger together, and that's what agritourism should be about. But yeah, thank you for sharing that, because I think that is important to have some of those things on the radar, because you become a victim of your own success at some point. So if we want to grow agritourism, we have to have that growth mentality for it. But yeah, no, but thank you for sharing that.
I think it's interesting too, Tam, that this is an emerging, like what Open Farm Days wants to do is increase rural tourism and increase ag tourism. And whether it's Open Farm Days or just more people getting involved in ag tourism, it's kind of an emerging economy for Albertans. If you go into like the Lower Mainland in BC, they've been doing this for a long time. I was in Quebec over the summertime. It's not an emerging economy there. So with emerging economies comes a lot of these challenges in which you're now facing. And as Tanis just mentioned, we're seeing this. So yeah, I think really valid points. And I think we're potentially at a kind of a turning point of, how we can move forward. So yeah, really appreciate your thoughts there.
Yeah, so I guess my only follow-up comment is that I sit on a steering committee for Travel Alberta, and the focus provincially going forward is to try and move tourism into rural areas across the province so they can grow tourism. So I think Open Farm Days is 100% in alignment with Travel Alberta's goals going forward. It's also in alignment with Destination Canada's goal to move tourism into rural areas and to take people off the beaten track and down the roads less traveled. It's in alignment as well. And I spoke with Senator Paula Simons, who happens to chair the federal ag Standing Committee for Agriculture and Forestry. And she said that is their mandate, is to diversify agriculture. And it's a provincial mandate as well to diversify. And I guess, knowing that we're in alignment in every category except municipalities is helpful. And I just think we just need that voice to trickle through to the municipal planning people who are looking at it from a regulatory perspective. So we've got some champions out there that want to see agritourism and diversified agriculture as a whole grow. So, it's nice to be able to see there would be on-farm small-scale processing, that farm-to-table dinners could happen, that you can have on-farm like visitors coming to the farm to support the farm, and realize that the experience and the stories of the farmers and the producers have a value, and just the same as our crops have a value, we should be able to sell those stories and those experiences going forward to diversify our small farms and keep small farms viable across the province.
Yep, I think we're all in agreement. So it'll be interesting to see. You mentioned that the amendment. So you hear back on that today, do you, sir, or this week?
Tomorrow, I think. Yeah.
Well, keep us posted, and maybe we can take some of this offline and see, if there's something that we can do to help and support or be a voice for this as well.
Good. Thank you.
All right, we're done.
Leona had some comments in the chat. Leona, did you want to talk about them? I don't have the ability to unmute. I don't think. Oh, there you
Can you
go.
hear us now?
Oh, there you go. Hi, is that you, Pete?
No, I'm Leona.
The video on here.
Just a quick little comment. We used to have very good support from our MD, and this last year we kind of got told this year, that's not going to happen anymore. And then as we're talking to people, we're finding that it seems like the CAO is driving it here anyways, that rural economic development within the MD is bringing in new business and not looking at, let's say, cultivating ag tourism, which is very disappointing. So we've already made a decision that we're going to be doing a fairly strong presentation to MD Council, that agritourism is rural lifestyle, rural business. It checks all your boxes about economic development within the MD and the rural lifestyle. So Leona and I have decided that we are going to be putting that together. I'm not sure when we're going to do it, but probably sooner than later is what I'm hearing. And Prairie Gardens was right. As soon as one municipality does something, the rest seem to copy it very quickly, which is very disappointing.
Yeah.
So,
But they're also seem to look at ag tourism as a commercial business. Instead of looking at it as an agriculture perspective. And I find that's kind of muddled the waters there pertaining to that. And the other thing is our MD Council, we had strong support from the previous council. And then we had elections last year, of course. So then now we have a new council and things are kind of changing that way, right? So every 4 years, depending who's there, can change the perspective. So, but with Prairie Gardens, we did hear that what happened to you guys is almost felt like an attack on agriculture, which is really sad. I really feel for you guys.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that. And I think that regulatory stuff that does become a challenge, and sometimes there's all this unnecessary red tape and letters that have to be written and sent out to all your neighbors for doing one simple event, and there's some crazy stuff that's happening. But I will say there's also some sunny patches too, where some are very pro development. So it's I think the opportunity to share best practices and share where things are working and municipalities that work well together is also good, so people can see some of those things, and instead of running people down to say, hey, follow this model.
yes, exactly.
It seems to be working. yeah, well, keep us posted, please, because we can figure out what are some of the great success things that we can start sharing, and hopefully get the right people listening to some of those stories as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Because they're
Like where,
absolutely bubbling up.
yeah, for us, like what the changes happened surfaced was this year. Before we were having our group meetings with all the farms that were participating in the area, through Community Futures. And then we had, the MD there, the co-op, you know, the supporters, for us coming and sharing ideas and things like that. And then this year they told us when we had our closeout meeting, we won't be able to come to the meetings anymore. And that was the MD. And we're like, oh, and so then now we're feeling like they're backpedaling on the support, where like the support that they were giving us was, you know, picnic tables, garbage cans, you know, just stuff that we normally would have to pay to rent.
Right.
But now it's like that support, we were getting ideas. They were doing all the Facebook promo, like, you know, we did definitely see the Open Farm Days promos coming through, which was really nice to see this year. And then people were saying they heard us on radio, or no, sorry, TV.
Yeah.
And we had no clue, like we didn't know, we were trying to find it, we couldn't find it.
Sometimes we don't know either. I think the problem with Open Farm Days is that it's getting its own success. So we have
Yeah,
all these, I think reporters are just going out, they know that it's coming up. So rather than going, we would usually come through me.
Yeah.
And then we always ask on our application, do you want to talk to media? Not everyone does. So,
Yeah.
you know, do you want to talk to media? Yes. And then I can funnel them through to the people that say that they're happy to talk to media. That's not happening as much as it was 5 years. How long have I been here? 4 years.
Mhm.
4 years ago, I was getting all of the thing, but I think as the program has developed and become more aware, the reporters are now going to our website, which is why you need a robust description, and then going and then finding the farms themselves. I had no idea CBC went to go talk to Janita, like no clue.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
is cool.
Cool.
which is cool, he's right,
Yeah.
yeah, you know, we always have the French CBC contacting us because we're francophone.
Yeah.
So and then a lot of people said they heard us on Global News one morning about Charlotte Lake Farms. And it was just wow. So anyway, it was really good, but really.
But it was last year's information.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the problem too, yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah,
So should we talk about our day?
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah.
So this year, after the day was done, we were completely exhausted. We had 2 tours, which went really well. That was a constant. It was about half an hour each. We talked about the history of the farm and how we produce our beef, and explain what chop was as an example, and how we wean calves. And that seemed to be it was a popular tour. There was lots of people on each ride, which Guy drove tractor and I did the speaking. And then our kids did the pasture tour with the cows and stuff like that.
So just, you know, they weren't scripted, so each tour was kind of different.
Yeah. I would go first because I didn't, you know, make myself notes, which I should have done. It just was off the hip and based on questions that people would ask, and then I added it. So, but anyway, next year I'll try to do a bit better with that. What new we did this year was did a calving simulator. Sorry, that's our cat back there.
Yeah.
He's being loud. We did a calving simulator. So we built basically it was a box that we painted a cow 4 dimensions. And then inside we made like a vulva, and we had a calf that my mom made. It's sure.
I'll go get Hector.
A life-size calf. And it was to show the kids how to help the cow have her calf, and what we need to do in order to assist the calf to come out, like mom and calf. And the kids were, you know, we had 83 kids try it out, and then we had 3 times as many watching. And there's the calf. So the legs bend and stuff, so you could actually, you know, pull the calf from your feet coming out. And then it's set up so we could tube feed him as well. their mom made a little thing
Wow.
here so it can, the kids could tube feed them if they needed, if they wanted to try. So the way I knew that kids had it, we had made stickers, and then it said, I helped Georgette, we named her Georgette, calf. So it was mixed reviews, like the kids were kind of intimidated, I guess, by it, but at the same time, we're like, that was really cool. And one comment was, that was really hard. And I said, well, in real life, it's really hard too. It's not, there's a reason we're helping them, right? Like, so, we didn't have, we didn't bring it all out. Like we just the basics for the kids to understand.
There was no blood or like stuff spraying out of it.
Yeah, none of that stuff, right? Like we didn't have, chains and things that we do use to help. Because they are slippery. But yeah, just the basics. So that went well. So, and then the other thing we did with the farmers market this year, we had 11 vendors, which included us. Guy's sister and a friend came and helped us do sales for the beef side, which we're not sure what happened there, but our sales went down. But there was less people as well. But we asked every vendor to add an educational component to their booth. So we had a greenhouse come, she had tomatoes. So the kids could cut the tomatoes and pick the seeds out and show them how they would harvest seeds as an example. We had honey, of course, which is always a very popular one. They had their presentation on how they, collect the bees, and then we had, and some were really good. They were like 4-H presentations. They put billboards and, when they had pictures and stuff, it kind of showed how they made things or whatever. So it was good that way. We did our cow patty bingo again this year. That one, it's popular, but we need to kind of restructure where we have it because it's kind of too far away from everything going on. This year we had our son make burgers. So he's taking culinary arts at NAIT, and so we made almost 500 patties from our beef by handmade, and we made burgers ourselves, which was a hit. People really enjoyed them, and it was very busy. So we need to kind of make some changes there. People were waiting in line a bit too long, but they said it was worth the wait. So it was a good burger there.
What we're finding with our open farm day, since it's not just the tours and stuff, people want to spend the day with us. That's what we're finding. They want to come and they want to do a couple tours. They want to have a burger and a beer. And then it seems like the kids want to play. Because I had made a tractor out of bales. That was busy all day long. We had some events on, guess the weight of the calf, guess the weight of the bale, roll the bale around the yard. Those activities were just super popular. So I think it's, we want to add some more activities, but I'm just finding that's what we're finding. They want to come, early in the morning, spend the day and then go home. Hit the bale maze and do stuff like that. So that's what we're finding, that I'm finding.
Yeah.
They just don't want to come and take off. They want to spend the day with us.
The bale maze is very popular. The thing is we could make it bigger, but it just takes too long. It's something that takes us already 3 days to build with what we do. So the kids time themselves how fast they can run through it. So of course they're running, oh, I did it in 46 seconds. So then he would say, well, you need to do a blind going backwards, close your eyes, and things like that, right? Just to give them things to do.
Yeah.
We've been asked to do corn maze, which we've been hesitant because we use it for feed for our cows. So we're thinking about maybe doing something with the corn maze. The pumpkin patch has been a hit. People didn't realize how many varieties of pumpkins are out there. We don't have anything like that out here. So we started that last year. This was our second year. And then buying seeds is like an addiction, which I think Prairie Gardens probably understands. You end up buying more than you probably need. But anyway, but overall, it was a good day. It was busy. We had more people than we were expecting because there was a lot going on that weekend here in this area. There was like 4 or 5 huge activities going on. We really didn't know what to expect. So we got about 3/4 of what we had from the year before. But now that you guys have moved that date further in, now there's no conflicts. So we're hoping that there'll be even more people maybe next year. But at the same time, I'm kind of extended as far as I can go for providing activities. We did have 4-H Club came and help us, which was really nice. The kids really were excited about bringing people and bringing them to the cow patty bingo as an example and things like that. So overall, I think it was a good day.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I know we're sort of 7 minutes after the hour, so I don't want to keep anyone too much longer. But thank you so much for sharing. And I do encourage any of you that if you've got some thoughts or ideas, different things you'd like to see about training, different networking opportunities. As I say, I loved the little sort of the idea bank of different concepts and ideas. A few people had asked about volunteers and best ways to recruit them. So I think there's a lot of great things that are floating out around there. But if you've got any sort of particular things that you think would be helpful for yourself and other farms, please do send them to
I
us.
should also mention, just one more thing. What we did this year is we asked our suppliers to sponsor part of the event.
Mhm.
And we actually were very successful. The credit union did something where we buy our fertilizer, paid for the washrooms. And it's just something we kind of threw out, send letters out, and actually it worked.
Yeah,
Just-
people were very interested and
Very,
supportive.
yeah.
Of sponsor.
Yeah, you guys have done a great job with that. And I think that's really creative and innovative, a way to also keep things free, if you will. And
Yes,
then charge
exactly.
for it.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's always cost us money to put this on. This year was the first year we were flush.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah, I mean, what a great way to, work with your partners and work with your
Mm-hmm.
suppliers and different people. I think it's brilliant.
thank you.
And I think if you're a first timer too, like you, Janina, like you have some numbers to go back to suppliers with or
Yeah.
sponsors with,
Mhm.
and the types of people that came, and having some of that information and having some of those stats, is a proof of, success, proof of business. And like you guys, Leona and Guy are growing every year. And, having that proof of growth and, I think is really valuable. And I think finding these different revenue streams is smart,
Yes.
Well, it's the only way we're going to survive.
Yeah.
right? Well, this is it, yeah.
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 It costs you money every year. You say, okay, well, do we do this? Yes or no?
Yeah.
It's a condition, but
We're just trying to stay afloat and, for farming and like, it's a tough one and it's emotional and it's just trying to figure out diversity to make us, so we can sustain the farm for future generations.
Yeah.
And really that's what all agriculture is about. People think we're making millions of dollars, like, hello, so it's, it's to make people open their eyes and see where their food comes from and understand. Like I had a question, it was an awesome question. It was, how does an animal turn into meat? And this was from a 9-year-old, right? So then you look at the mom and you say, okay, is this okay to answer? Or, and things like that. But anyway, it's just a quick point. It's really important to connect people with their food and where it comes from and which you guys are doing a great job, I think. Thank you very much for all the support you guys have done over the years. It's awesome.
Oh, well, thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
And MJ, thank you for your comment as well. For those of you who haven't read it, with suggestions for outdoor toilets is to purchase one and have it year round on the property and then rent additional one to cut costs. We have an on-site one painted to look like a log cabin. So I think that's great. I know we had one farm out in Lac La Biche and well, the rental is not very expensive. It was $500 for transportation because the closest place.
Oh, wow.
So there's only a few that are kind of in that scenario, but absolutely we started to look into a couple of things about the portable toilets to find out if we can get a contract through Open Farm Days, because we know how many we'll be renting throughout the province. So if we can use that sort of collective power to broker a better arrangement, or looking into those purchase prices for them as well, that the credit couldn't go against that as well and set people up. So there's a few things that we're working on that front as well. So
Yeah.
thank you for mentioning that. I appreciate it.
But it is interesting if you're planning on doing events year round or having visitors at your farm year round, you know, would it make more sense to purchase a porta potty versus renting one? So if you're going to be having a Christmas event, or you guys are doing pumpkin farms or
Yeah.
whatever,
We use their camper. We
might-
use their camper.
Yeah.
That's what we
Yeah.
do.
yeah, it might just be
Hmm.
worth it just to purchase one instead of renting it $200 or however much, depending on where you are, each go.
Mhm.
Oh, and Tom.
Oh,
Oh, you do? Okay, if you have plans for winter activities, you need to be putting them on the Open Farm Days website. We have, we hire a PR firm to help with our media buy, which does the, where you'll see all our ads. And then also sends out our news releases. We have budget left over. And so we're gonna be doing a big push for Christmas gifts, Christmas markets, winter activities. And it's on the Open Farm Days website. I'm gonna put the link in right here. We're trying to get them off Instagram. We've been kind of been doing some sneaking to try and find them. But if you guys submit them, then for sure, we can include them on our media release. I'm just gonna throw it. Where's my chat? There we go. Just submit them through here.
and Anton, I saw yours just pop up. If I can ask you to unmute yourself as well. Anton, I'm wondering what farm is yours? You mentioned that you had 8 people this year. So
So we run Ural Farms. It was basically a brand new farm. And by brand new, I mean like we had no, we literally started like a couple years ago.
that's
Ural Farm.
oh yeah,
I'm gonna.
Just in the central region, they're just north of Edmonton, right?
Well, it's close to between Whitecourt and Mayerthorpe.
Right.
So it's not quite central region. We were in a kind of place where we had a few other farms around us who participate in Open Farm Days, but we had barely no visitors. We had only 8. And we only did Saturday just to kind of open things up.
Right.
Over like my wife and I, we kind of prepared the letter to send it to you guys, kind of with all of our comments. But we are planning to continue this year anyways, because we are not going to quit because, well, you know, first year is the first year. We organized a market. We had 6 different vendors there. We organized activities for the kids. We had like basically for kids and adults. We had meditation hour planned. We had activities for kids, which is basically we had a map made up of our plan of our farm and where kids could find different things on it, right? So we approach it from what we think kind of, you know, very well. We had our county come out. We had a number of interviews kind of set because of that, and still very kind of poor showing. It was quite unfortunate for us. We were one of those farms who have experienced very large delivery fees for porta potties. Ours, even though we are about half an hour away from Whitecourt, we had our delivery fees was $300, while to rent a porta potty is $75.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of I think they you know, delivery really takes a toll right now, no matter how far away you are from major center. The things that we would like more help with is with promotion, right? Again, one thing that we went in this event thinking that it's about education, right? you let people in and you try to educate people about farming. And our farm is, we're literally at the starting stages. So it's a great opportunity to people to see what it actually takes to start a farm. Yet from what we see, and the most success that we see, it comes from entertainment. So, and here is a big thing that I kind of have for you guys. Do you approach, when you market this thing, are you approaching it as a ability for entertainment where you come and enjoy the activities at the farm for a day or for a weekend? Or are you coming in and saying, hey, this is an education component, right? Or education is kind of tucked onto the entertainment. So I think if for any new participants, if that can be clarified, that would be great. Because now we understand that entertainment is the key. People are not gonna, people are very, we didn't have anybody who, and again, we only had 8 people, and we are fairly close to Mayerthorpe and Whitecourt. We're 15 minutes away from Mayerthorpe, half an hour from Whitecourt, and we are right along the highway. People don't even need to go on the gravel roads. We figured, you know what, like it should be a no-brainer for people to visit, even if they go to adjacent farms for the, you know, for that to participate in other or open farm days. But they're not looking for education. They're not looking to see something unique unless there is entertainment provided for them to kind of, and it's like, oh yeah, it's a secondary kind of thing. That's sure, we learn a little bit about that. So at least that is kind of feeling that my wife and I, we got out of it. And again, we could be absolutely wrong just because of our, you know, limited exposure.
Yeah, I think with such a small sample size, you know, with 8 people, it's kind of hard to tell, but we do have a lot of people that are absolutely all about the education, like they're there to learn and understand. But that isn't everybody. Some places are looking for somewhere to take their kids and have them run outside. Like it is a really wide range, and that's why we try and have really robust descriptions. So people that are looking for that education piece can find those places where they can go and learn, and people that are looking for ag entertainment can go in and do different kinds of things. So we have, you know, with about 40,000 people moving around, we obviously have all sorts of different kinds of people. And that's kind of the unique thing about Open Farm Days, is it caters to such a wide variety of people, and also the farms that are offering authentic experiences. We don't want cookie cutters. We don't want everyone to have the same corn maze and pumpkin patch. Otherwise, that doesn't make them special. So we really want people to do what they do. And but you know, I think, and I don't think we got a survey back from you guys, because I didn't.
No, we literally missed the entire thing. So if you want to reopen the survey, you can, like I will submit it, but we also prepared the entire list of things that we kind of, what we felt, and I can send you an email with our kind of comments. And
yeah,
we
I'd like to send a survey anyway, just so that we have that like official record, so I can send that to you. But I want to back on what Tana says, because part of Open Farm Days in this ag education is the tax. I remember your profile very, very well, and you guys did promote on Facebook. I remember all that. I think you're right there. What Tana mentioned, there are 2, you know, different experiences, and there is the education piece, which we require all farms to do. There has to be an education piece. Open Farm Days is about ag education and rural tourism. But also, even if it's education, it is it's the like, how do people learn? It's the see, touch, smell, feel, and that's where those experiences are important. So we have like the activities like a corn maze or a bale maze or what have you. But when they come to your farm, we need to think about, so hopefully this will help with planning for 2023. So when they're coming to your farm, what does that look like, and what do they do when they get there? So they come in and then they turn right and they check in, and then they go to this place, and then they go to this place. Is there, when they get to a certain area, is there like a touch, smell thing? And if there is, then how are we describing that in our description on the listing? So even if it's bullet points, it can say, I'll just use the Highfield example. So come to the compost, where you will, well, there'll be a tour at 1 o'clock and we will teach you how to compost. Then you're attracting those compost people. Come to the tour at 3 o'clock and we'll be taking you a tour for foraging, where you can learn about foraging, where you can see things and blah, blah, blah. So those description parts where you're putting out specifically what it is they can see, like it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be the activity part. You don't have to have a bale maze. Like Tanis mentioned, it kind of doesn't make it unique if everybody has one. And it doesn't make it unique to your specific farm. I remember when Hartel Homestead started with Open Farm Days, they're down in Foothills County. They are a homestead. And so Nick started a homestead and he bought some animals and was like, okay, I just started a homestead. Who wants to come see how I started a homestead? And he did sessions on and he was very specific around, this is how I purchased the land. This is how I purchased a cow. And he went through and did sessions. And then as the years went on, obviously he's not had to do those sessions anymore. It's more around like what he's learned about opening up a store, what he's done about, how he looks after the chickens, or I don't know if that's what he does, but like those very specific things. And then he puts them in the description. At 3 o'clock, there will be this demonstration and this is what you will learn. There will be a cow and you can feed the cow. There will be ducks and you can give them peas. So those things are really important, especially when it comes to education. Like, what is the outcome? What will they learn? What time is it at? And you may only get 8 people, but that's your audience. And if you're getting 8 people who are interested in that, then you have reached your right demographic and you have done the right thing. So it's just being very clear on what it is that you're going to do and who you want to talk to.
So in that case, are you guys planning to have a workshop on how to write a description?
Yes, that is on my wish list for 2023. Yeah.
Right, because that is a thing, right? Like, if the description is very, very important.
Yes.
It would be helpful if we could edit the description ourselves, because I got to be honest, the way how we want the description to look was not the way how it looked on the website, because we tried submitting our edits and they were just not happening. Right, it's simply because the old information either wouldn't be removed or the new information would be posted somewhere, like duplicated, right? So it would be great if you could have a chance to submit our own, actually like edit our own.
So there's a couple challenges, because this is a conversation we've been having over the years, because we have 123 farms and not everyone is comfortable with going in the back end of our website. And so for some people, we have talked about maybe having, like people raise their hands, like, I'm comfortable with WordPress. I can go in and edit that, no problem. We can create a portal for those people. The other problem that we run into is, Open Farm Days is a brand, and where people are changing things, this doesn't fit to like our brand requirements. We need all our farms to look the same. So it's a challenge that we've been talking with our web designer back, and it might be something that we test in 2023. Depends on how much that plugin will cost, because those are also not cheap. So that's also something we look into. But then also what we were finding this year, because I completely understand with the submitting, what was happening is in August, we were having farms sending multiple edits several times a day, and we were getting 500 plus emails per day. And then, so again, great. Our success is we have a ton of farms, but the problem is that this is definitely a challenge for us on how do we manage all these edits. And so what we have talked about is having a session where we complete our registration form online. And then we ask farms to come in with, do you know what activities you're going to have, and have these things ahead, and then we can fill them in together. Whatever you submit on your registration form, it gets directly submitted to the website. So we don't touch any of that. It just feeds right into it. So if something's wrong on your profile, it's just kind of fed into from your registration. That can be changed, no problem. right? But when we have 123 farms submitting in a day, and then, oops, I made a mistake. It's totally fine. We're here to do that. It just makes it challenging. So having all these things done by like June, and then being really comfortable with what you need to have in June or July, and then you don't have to worry about it in August. In August, you don't have to worry about the website. You just have to worry about, getting your farm ready or making sure that you've got your volunteers and all those things. So it is this year-round process of thinking about what you want to have, what your goals are, and then kind of planning it out that. So they're definitely super valid concerns that we are, especially the website piece, we are very aware about, but like on the back end of pieces, it's just.
Oh, it's very complicated. It's like dealing with 120 different entities that want different information, and it's fluid, right? Especially once things comes to like the due date, everybody starts changing things. So like my wife and I, we absolutely understood why things were happening the way they were happening.
Yeah.
And that's why it would be nice if you
could do it yourself.
If you could do it yourself and not burden you any further because you.
No, and it's not a burden. It's just, so our challenge on the back end is how comfortable are everyone with this, right? And maybe only 25% of people are, and then that's amazing. You guys, it's yours, off you go. On the flip side, then if we open it up to everyone, and then are we changing things because they can't log in, and then we're getting the same amount of emails because they can't log in or they're not quite sure. So yeah, it's definitely, I think, part of our growing pains. It's definitely something we are aware that is a challenge that we need to kind of fix. Or
if I might, I've got another Zoom in 2 minutes, so I'm going to have to sign off. But I will say that we have our July session is your digital story. So we've left it that late because we know that people are going to be building what their program is. They're going to be making changes. And then Nicola is leading that session in July to talk about what does your story look like. And I will say for our people that registered early last year, we went back to people that had kind of their websites or their web pages for us were subpar, and we're like, hey, you need to dial this up. Here's what's missing. Here's your gaps. Here's your stuff. So we were kind of prompting early on to make sure. But of course, the experience is better than we do. So what we try and share is here's best in class. Here's the ones that are doing a great job. They're getting tons of visits and people are connecting with them. And then in July, we do have that session. So hopefully we can get everybody on our goal each year is to kind of bring people up. And this last year, we offered 3 courses on media marketing and talk about your stories and stuff. And so we saw a really great increase in the quality of how people describe their farms, and those are all available to you as well to go back for. But anyways, at this point,
I would just sorry, Tana, it's just 1 second. I would do too is go and like take an hour and go creep on the Open Farm Days website and go look at everyone's profiles and see what you like and what you don't like, and say, you know what, these guys did a really good job. I want to do that.
Awesome. No, thank you. Honestly, we're looking forward to this year as well. We are going to change how we approach things a bit differently, but yeah, we are looking forward to it, and we are thankful for your efforts to bring the agriculture back to their, to other people. It's awesome.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
all right. Well, thank you.
Anton, let's talk offline too, because you might be one of my test subjects to go and do that.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you. Send me the link and I'll
right.
give the.
I will. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, bye.
Okay.
Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.